I think this share and the introduction, the presence of all the different people shows the interest of Centrale Supélec and also SystemX they are having in this real interesting topic, and also the industrial partners, that it's such an important topic for their research. So I arrived about 1 year ago in Paris, and I'm really happy to be able to speak here now and to present my ideas about the research and the problems we are facing in transportation and in urban situations in general. So before coming to Paris, I usually drove to work by car. So this was quite convenient, but after arriving in Paris, I learned to know all these traffic jams and so on. And so I also learned to use RER, which is quite convenient most of the times. At least for me, because I'm more or less directly connected to a station where I can walk from the station to IRT SystemX through a nice wood, and so it's a very, very nice situation, and you can breathe some fresh air, because I live in the center of Paris, so it's always nice to have some fresh air in the morning. And of course, sometimes I'm lazy and I don't want to go by foot, and I don't want to take the air, so I take my car and I drive. And then on my way home in the evening, I'm always angry because again I'm in the traffic jam. So that's always these two things. And the interesting thing is the RER is not very nice. So when you are in the RER, there is some people, lots of people, and sometimes it's hot and so on. And then I saw that there is lots of people who are wearing headphones. Then they are listening to music and so on. So I have a mobile phone and it has a radio, and I tried this, but then the RER goes through tunnels, so radio is not really a good idea. So this didn't work, and then I thought, okay, I tried a built-in music player, and it gives you access to like 30 millions of titles, and so that's great. And then I bought even some headphones that are wireless headphones. And I was with these wireless headphones, and it was very nice, and I feel very well in the RER. And then I go out, walk to my work, and I discovered that I lost a piece of my headphones. And then I was very frustrated. And the next day I didn't take the RER, I took my car again. And I said, okay, I'm so frustrated I cannot use RER, and these headphones are unusable because it's uncomfortable and so on. And then I had some exchange with the headphone company, and I got new headphones because I had to cut them in two, and then they said, okay, it's a warranty case, and they sent me new ones. And after some time I got the new headphones, and then I was happy again, and then now I'm using RER and sometimes car, depending on my mood. So that's me in the forest walking to going to work with my headphones, and I'm very happy often, not always, of course. So that's my personal story about my urban mobility. So why do I tell you this story? I mean, it's kind of an introduction, and it's always nice to start with some introductory story. But why is this interesting? It's interesting because this story touches several very relevant aspects of our research we will be looking at in our chair. So there is many factors that influence the mobility behavior, and in particular, and most of them are linked. So I was talking about my habit. So in Austria, I used my car. I was talking about my feelings. So a lot of feelings and irrational behavior, but also about society and other people. So I looked at how other people are dealing with the situation. There is some economics involved. So I buy something because of my change of mobility. So there's also some. And then there is housing, okay, where I'm living. And I touch the whole urban system in general. So, and that's why, so these topics are all linked, and they are linked to all, they are influencing our mobility behavior. And this is actually on the topics that we are working. So now let's talk about the general context of the research. So the Anthropolis chair, as you heard before, is mainly interested in urban mobility, and especially at the users. who are being mobile or not being mobile, because sometimes it's also important to not being mobile in the city or in the urban environment. And so it's us, these users, it's the humans who are moving from A to B for some reason, or maybe no reason at all, because sometimes you're just walking around. So the main focus of our research is to identify the needs and the pains that are influencing the daily mobility experience and our mobility behavior. So one major aspect of current concern is sustainability and ecological impact. So here you see a picture of the Eiffel Tower that you might know when it's very polluted in Paris. So this is happening not as often as in Beijing, but sometimes it's happening in Paris as well. So city, as you said in the introduction, cities are growing in terms of inhabitants, but also in terms of geographical size. Of course, they cannot grow immensely, but as we see in Paris, there is a large part of suburbs that are connected, and we see with the Grand Paris there will be new metro lines. So and this mobility of people and how they get to the center and get to the workplace is a topic that is really important, and it poses major challenges in terms of habitability, ecology, accessibility, also social inequalities, and all these kind of topics. So I just read today an article about Berge de la Seine and the effects. Okay, the traffic will be reduced, and it's nice for some people, but then maybe for other people it's not so nice, because it makes the access to the city more difficult, and then prices in the city are even higher for housing and so on. So it creates effects that you cannot, that are all interlinked. So it's all these topics are very closely linked and are always linked to the user, that in the end is the one who is experiencing all these urban situations. So according to the International Transport Forum, the transport is growing. So it means that we will have a 250% up to 250% of transport growth in the coming years, and a major part will be happening in urban environments, also in emerging economies, but also in our industrialized countries. And pollution and the negative effects of transportations are one real major issue of the cities, and today, and even more of tomorrow, because they are getting denser and even more people are living in cities. So here you can see some interesting figures from Europe. So for example, in Europe, the car is the most used mode of daily transport, and then it's quickly followed by urban public transport. And what is interesting is that convenience and speed are said to be way more important in the selection of your mode of transport than price. Okay, so convenience and speed. But then you look at figures from Ile-de-France, and you see that every day people lose a lot of time in traffic. So then there is even specific numbers. Nicolas perd 3 jours et 18 heures en un an. So there's a lot of time lost and a lot of inconvenience in traffic. So why people then say convenience and speed are more important than price? So there is something that is not really conclusive about these figures. So, and this is exactly something we want to investigate. Why are people making their choices, and what are the reasons for their behavior? So this is also interesting. Europeans are not very optimistic. So only 24% believe the traffic situation will improve in the future. I mean, this is from 2013, so there is no newer figures, but I guess it doesn't have evolved a lot. So what we see in Paris again is that kilometers driven, kilometers made by cars are reduced. So then, okay, we can come to a conclusions. People in Paris, industrialized areas, they are using cars more rationally. Okay, I don't have to use my car all the time. Sometimes I use public transport, maybe like I am doing it privately. I'm mixing the modes and so on. So, but what's the situation in public transport? As I said, usually it works well, but sometimes not, right? And it's exactly these situations where the problems are coming up that are frustrating you and that are posing you the problems. What's happening when you are going with your luggage to the metro and there is no lift or the lift is broken? Then you will be really angry, and the next time you will take a taxi with your luggage, right? And this is exactly the single points of problems, of pain that can lead you to change your behavior or affect you on this emotional level. So the number of people using public transport is growing as well. But of course, our systems might also reach their limits. So the RER, for example, is very strongly used. Yeah, everyone knows this, and also the public transport operators are working on this issue. But so then other people say, okay, what can we find as a solution? We should reduce mobility. So reducing mobility means increasing teleworking, for example. So let's have people staying at home 1 day a week on various different days, and then we can maybe reduce commuting and so on. But, and this is interesting, there is a very recent study from people at IFSTA who say actually without exogenous shock, there will be no real change with regards to teleworking. So if commute costs don't go up enormously, or there will be a change in regulation, they conclude teleworking will not happen. So there is many things that you can, okay, there might be some simple ideas to address a problem, but it's not that easy because there is other factors involved. Another thing that is happening in urban mobility are disruptions. So what are the changes we can expect in the future? What are the technologies or the developments in society that will change? So will there be some revolutions? And if you read several studies and scenarios and of futurists, you will see that there is many different predictions. They are maybe even contradictory, and they are about technology, economy, society, many different aspects. So and all these aspects have their influence on mobility and so on. So for example, there is this sharing aspect. So what is going on with the sharing economy? So there is corporate players, private players, public players who are concerned. So for example, if you look at the activities in Paris, there was strong involvement of the city of Paris in creating Velib, Autolib, for example. And then there is, in Vienna, there is a system that is similar to Velib. But then there is other systems like Car2Go, where the city administration are not so much involved in but that are really coming from companies. And then there is again other aspects that are more coming from people, society, and so on. So there is many players in the aspect. And sharing looks really good. I mean, we can just hop in a car and take it and use it. That's very nice, right? But does it always work? So sometimes you are in such a situation and you see in your app maybe, okay, there is still one Velib standing there, and then you get to this Velib, but unfortunately it's broken. So that's the reason why it's still there, right? So that's clearly a pain situation and something that even with some nice app might not be working, right? Or this situation, you come with your Velib and then no place to put it. So this can be nice if you need one, but it's not nice if you need to put your Velib there, right? So in our share, we were exchanging anecdotes on mobility, and then there is one anecdote where one guy didn't find a place, and then he had to put his Velib, he attached it somewhere, and it didn't, and he forgot it there. Then he took his car, had to get the Velib and bring it somewhere else, and then he got a fine on the highway. So then everything got really bad. And so sometimes things go wrong in the most well-thought system. So maybe technology can help, right? So there is big data and optimization methods and so on that will predict needs for where do you need your cars or your vehicles and so on. But they will work on a system level, but for the individual, they might not prevent such a situation, right? this might in the simple case. So if they are not working in 99.9% of the cases, they will create again maybe pain situations that might change your behavior. So this is the sharing, and then this, of course, you might know this picture. The people from Renault might know it because this is the Nissan Renault autonomous car that was presented last year. So this is also a very important topic, and this is a topic that is able to change a lot in mobility. So we expect self-driving vehicles to be a major game changer in the urban context. So cars might become places of entertainment, well-being, work, many other things. So there is studies on what will we do in our autonomous cars, right? So these are also interesting topics, and there is many different players in the self-driving car arena. So there is the classical automobile producers, but there is also Google and Uber. But there is also some ideas about having small buses, so that we have self-driving navette that can work as in public transport applications. So many people are thinking about self-driving cars and are discussing it, and many people have different visions of the future with self-driving cars, and this is also interesting. So for example, here is a recent article from John Zimmer, who is the founder of Lyft, and he says that more or less there will be no more private cars by 2025. So this is a very strong statement, especially for car manufacturers. So then there is other people. This guy comes from the sharing economy, of course. Then there is other people like Elon Musk from Tesla who wants to sell his cars, and he says, okay, everyone will be able to buy a car, right? Because he can finance it through lending it out to other people through this sharing economy thing. So he has a completely different vision economically as the guy from Lyft has. So there is many different views on automatic vehicles, and it will be very interesting to see how it develops. So for example, there is a recent study also from Deloitte. They, by the way, don't see that if you look at the 2025, there's only the top part that is autonomous. So they don't see that there will be shared. So they see a lot of privately owned cars still. So there is a strong divergence of predictions if you look at Zimmer, for example, and this one from Deloitte. So this brings us actually to the third main topic. So we had the humans, we had the disruptions, and now we look at the impacts. So what will be the impacts of all these changes on urban systems and on urban mobility? So interestingly, for example, Robin Chase, she draws two scenarios. So she says, if we take action and we change how our urban system works, we can build a dream world. But if we don't, we can also create a nightmare. And she really draws a picture of a transportation hell where there is autonomous vehicle, empty cars driving around, circling, because they don't spend cost on parking, and it's cheaper to circle them because energy is cheap, and even for you will not go to the supermarket anymore for anything because you can send your car there, and there will be, instead of 50% of the cars with only one person in them, you will have like 75% of the cars with 0 person in them, right? And this will create unemployment and whatever, right? So she has this picture, and then the other one where everyone shares their cars and everyone is happy, and economy is living from itself, and we have a minimum salary for everyone, and so on. And so she draws these two pictures, and that's the questions. Are we going there? Will there be one of those two, or is this realistic, or will we be somewhere in between? So for example, again from this Deloitte study, this is not only on the autonomous part, but this is interesting because they present a very optimized, fully multimodal scenario where the user gets out from his workplace, he goes into the train, he orders his food, then he gets his food at the train station, he enters the autonomous car, gets at home, enters at home, he even has already eaten in the car, and at home he only goes to sleep, right? But is this the way you want to live? I mean, maybe it's nice in some period of your life when you're really very invested in your work, but don't you live in a city because you want to interact with other people? So is this vision one you want to follow? That's questionable. So actually, are we at a crossroads? Is there only two paths, or are there many? Is it gray or not? And this is exactly the question, or one of the questions we will also be looking in the Chaire. So we know that there is some radical changes ahead, and that we need some human-centered approach. And so the Chaire Anthropolis is investigating human-centered eco-innovations in the context of urban mobility systems and their interactions with other systems. So this is exactly the main research area of the Chaire. And as I motivated before, the three main topics are, on the one hand, the users. So we want to look at users and user scenarios. So we want to identify a typology of needs, behavior, and habits in personal mobility. So this is the first part. The second part will be to identify future disruptive developments and to work on a methodology also to innovate and to develop innovations in a user-centered way. And in the third part, we will assess the impacts of various innovations on the mobility systems and on the economy and on policy by adapting existing tools from the platforms you were talking about, for example, in ERT, with a user-centered focus. So we build also on existing technology at ERT. And here are just a few things to give you a glimpse of what we already started with working. So in the observation area, we were asking the question that we want to apply a very empirical approach, combining qualitative and quantitative observations to learn more about the pains and satisfactions experienced by travelers in an urban setting. So for example, we did a first observation close by on the Plateau de Saclay at Massy-Palaiseau, where we looked at some pain points of users. We have other pictures. There is a nice picture also of people in the rain standing beside the bus stop because it's way too small for all the people waiting for the bus. And then we also look at en route, what is the route people are going, and where we try to make some first observations on a typical daily commute or other ways, and these are then on this point we will develop interviews and other interactions with people. And then there is something on impact. So this is some work I did with colleagues from Vienna and Rio. So this is not fully the topic of the Chaire, but it was based mainly on work I did before. But it's more or less the idea of this work will be things that this kind of problems we will be also investigating, but more in the application context of the Chaire. So we looked at what happens if there is city center restrictions for some car types. So for example, for classical combustion engines, and you can enter the city center with an electric vehicle. So then we looked at the impact on the vehicle fleet compositions and on the delivery routes. So we looked at these two classes, classical vehicles and electric vehicles. We looked at optimal fleet mix, optimal tours, and there you see an example of Paris. We took several cities, also Vienna and others. And we were able to analyze also various like city center types of city center restrictions. So with daily entrance fees, kilometer fees, time window restrictions, and so we quantify the effects of different types of of restrictions on fleet composition, for example. So this is a very quantitative approach that will also be part of our research in the Chaire. In the Chaire, we will be mainly focusing on personal mobility, on sharing and synchronization aspects, and what those aspects will have, like what the impact will be on the mobility system. So we just recently started a thesis on this. So this is just to give you a little glimpse of the type of research we will be doing. So what would be a research without a team? So here is the team of the Chaire. So the 4 colleagues who are joining me in this research effort, and I'm really happy that it's them, because I think we are a good team, and we already started with doing very interesting and good work. So thanks for your attention. And now we continue with the podium discussion, and while the discutants go, or discussers go join me at the podium, I might answer 2 quick questions, and then we can follow up afterwards at the coffee break. Thank you.
One of the new developments that I have been following is the sharing mobility, and it just starts from disruptive companies itself, like Google making the car, and then comes Nissan, and then several other follows. Now that Airbus is developing this drone technology for personal transport in San Francisco, and they want to use that with Uber. So they have partnered with Uber to do that as well. So do you think that over the coming time, you would do a research to find out, like, if it's possible to introduce in urban scenarios a new transportation mode, such as
this is very interesting. This was on the media, I think, yesterday, right? This thing with drones.
After the Deloitte research, this was coming up.
So I think this is a very interesting topic, and even in China they did already some experiments with this. So I think the first applications will be more in Asia than in Europe. I guess, because it's maybe also easier with legislation and so on.
That's true.
And I think this is also more coming in the delivery sector first. So we have seen already Amazon experimenting with that and so on. So I'm very interested in this topic, and we will be looking into this topic. This will surely be part of our research. We in looking at disruption, we also looked at things like Hyperloop or whatever. I mean, there is so many new technologies coming up that can be game changers, but that can also completely not work, right? So you don't. But I think things like personal drones will surely be at least a niche thing. Yes.
Thank you for that. Because in France, it's one of the leaders in aircraft industry, and by being part of this new sharing economy, it can tremendously benefit from.
Yes, I agree. Oui. Vas-y, en français.
On peut basculer en français?
Oui. Bien sûr.
Comment est-ce que dans la Chaire, tu prévois de prendre en compte l'évolution du monde du travail? On parle beaucoup par rapport à la transformation, la révolution numérique que nous vivons tous, des évolutions des modes de travail, de moins en moins de travail salarié. Donc comment est-ce que tu anticipes ces évolutions-là dans les travaux de la Chaire, puisqu'on se place dans des horizons assez long terme finalement, puisque qui dit évolution du mode de travail dit des impacts sur la mobilité des individus.
Donc disons, dans la prospective plus générale des aspects sociétaux et urbains, nous reposons quand même sur des études prospectives qui existent. Comme on est 5, on ne va pas pouvoir traiter tous les aspects, mais c'est sûrement un aspect que l'on traitera dans la Chaire. Mais je pense que ce changement du monde de travail n'est pas si rapide que ça. Donc comme on le voit dans cette étude de Livestar, il y a quand même un grand nombre de personnes qui ont un travail régulier, qui ont des heures de travail régulières, etc. Donc ça va venir, mais actuellement ou dans les quelques années, dans le proche futur, ça ne va pas encore être très influent. Après, dans le futur plus lointain, là, il faut regarder ce qu'il y a dans les études et dans les divers disons, prévisions qui existent, sociologiques ou socio-économiques.
Et du coup, est-ce que dans la chaire, vous pensez avoir un volet sur tout ce qui est récupération des données, traitement des données, de tout ce qui se passe pour pouvoir faire des scénarios? Parce que les scénarios, vous les inventez, ou est-ce que vous les partez à partir de données que vous récoltez
Nous-mêmes, on ne va pas récolter de données de grande envergure, mais on va regarder sur des données qui sont plutôt qualitatives ou plutôt dans un plus petit nombre, mais on se met en coopération avec d'autres projets. Donc par exemple, à l'IRT, il y a un projet qui vient de commencer, le projet MSM, qui traite par exemple des données type Big Data de la mobilité. Et on a une personne qui travaille sur MSM et sur la chaire à moitié, sur les deux. Donc c'est d'un point de vue des personnes qui travaillent et aussi de la plateforme qui sont dessus qu'on va mettre ensemble ces deux aspects.
Merci.
D'accord. Donc je prends une dernière question et après on va faire on va se mettre sur le pause.
Une question. Donc Anthropolis, c'est écrit Human-Centered Urban Design. Et je voulais savoir si les aspects culturels étaient importants dans vos travaux et de quelle manière ça allait être pris en compte.
Ils sont sûrement très importants. Et il faut aussi le dire, on a une vue certainement eurocentrique parce qu'on est en Europe et parce que on est plus ou moins tous européens dans la chaire. Oui, je veux dire, on a tous des origines, etc. Mais on vit là, c'est notre cœur de l'influence. Mais on veut les prendre en compte d'une certaine façon, de regarder ça, mais la majeure partie va être eurocentrique. Donc oui, mais disons pas au centre de nos réflexions.